Great. So thank you everyone for coming. My name is Tony Jha, as Heidi mentioned, and so I'm actually the program manager of a program called HIRAKU-Global. And so this is part of a webinar series which will be featuring certain programs in Japan which are focused on early career research development, which is one of the things that HIRAKU-Global is really striving to do. And so I'll be explaining a little bit about the program today and also specifically about the international initiative of HIRAKU-Global. So stay tuned for that. So of course, before we start, it looks like there's many attendees from everywhere. So it'd be great to know where you're from. And so if you can use the Q&A function, just type out, where you're from, city, university. It's totally up to you. It'll be great to see, from where all of you are coming from. And that'll help us also to understand, what regions or which countries or which institutions might be interested in working together with us in the future. So why don't you go ahead and do that anytime, and let me go ahead and start then. So first of all, let me explain a little bit about what exactly is HIRAKU-Global. And so HIRAKU-Global, it's short for the Home for Innovative Researchers and Academic Knowledge Users Driving Global Impact. And specifically, what we want to do is try to develop researchers through various initiatives, through various strategies, one of which is through regional collaboration. And specifically, what HIRAKU-Global is really, interested in, one of our main goals is to work with researchers and specifically early career researchers in our area. So HIRAKU-Global is composed of 4 universities. These are universities in this region of Japan, which I'll show later. They're Hiroshima University, which I'm based at, and this is where the main, HIRAKU-Global administrative office is. But we also have 3 partner universities. Yamaguchi University, Tokushima University, and Ehime University. And all of these universities are in this region of Japan called Chugoku Shikoku. If you're from Japan, you're very well aware of this region. If you're not from Japan, it's the south, kind of the western Japan. And what we want to do is build from the inside out. We want to start with HIRAKU-Global researchers, which are in these universities, for these researchers to work together, to work with other researchers in the area, this region, and also in Japan and eventually the world. We want to basically spread, our message and our research around the world from Chugoku Shikoku as a base. And again, if you're not familiar with this area of Japan, here's a simple map of Japan that's color-coded a little bit that I've taken from Wikipedia. And so the region that we're actually in is this orange and purple region here. So the orange region is called Chugoku. It consists of 5 prefectures, Yamaguchi, Shimane, Hiroshima, Okayama, and Tottori. And then in purple is Shikoku. It's one of the large islands of Japan. And Shikoku has 4 prefectures. So Ehime, Kochi, Kagawa, and Tokushima. And so these 2 regions form the base of our operations. And so these are where the 4 universities, the partner universities of HIRAKU-Global, are based at. And you can see here, they're a bit spread out through this region. And we've been working together not only, through in-person collaboration, but through online collaboration because of the, how spread out these universities are. And in the last couple of years, we've actually also welcomed 2 collaborating institutions into HIRAKU-Global. In 2024, Shimane University joined as a collaborating university and institution. And then earlier this year, a few months ago, Naruto University of Education, which is in Shikoku, also joined as a collaborating institution. And so we're actually really interested in working with any university in this area. And so we're really happy if you can consider whether you want to join our effort and our initiative. And I will explain a little bit more about what we actually do. So as I mentioned before, HIRAKU-Global is a program which seeks to develop early career researchers. And essentially every year, a number of early career researchers are selected from tenure track faculty within each of these partner universities. And so Overall, there's currently 30 HIRAKU-Global researchers in the program. They've been selected through a very rigorous interview process. And all of these researchers are, they represent a variety of different fields, not just one field, but many fields. For example, sciences, engineering, even social sciences and medicine, and so even computer science as well. And so our program is very broad. It consists of many early career researchers. And what we want to do is we want to, we really want to see their growth and their vision and to see them become leaders, not, just for, research institutions within Chugoku Shikoku or Japan, but research leaders around the world. And here's a little bit more information about the structure of HIRAKU-Global. It's a little bit complicated, but essentially there are a number of committees that are designing and helping to build this program. For example, Program Management Committee designs, various aspects of the program. The Program Development Committee specifically works to develop initiatives directly supporting development of skills for early career researchers. And then the Evaluation Development Committee, for example, is working on, how to, evaluate researchers. This committee seeks to find ways to, really highlight the growth of researchers throughout the program. And finally, the Operating Council is kind of oversees everything, and the Operating Council makes final decisions based on recommendations from each committee. And so what are the goals of HIRAKU-Global? So, for example, one of the goals is to, as I mentioned briefly before, develop researchers capable of leading really significant research on the world stage. And so to do that, we want to support the research of these early career researchers, but also to develop their skills and also to provide mentorship for early career researchers, specifically who are just starting to build their research careers and build their labs. We also want to seed new research collaborations and develop new research networks with Chugoku Shikoku as a base. So first of all, we want to see, perhaps the researchers within the program work together and make collaborative networks. Then we want to, build collaborations with other researchers within this region, within Japan, and especially we're really interested in working internationally, and that's what much of today's talk will be about. How we're working on initiatives that kind of promote internationality. And of course, we are in a region of Japan, Chugoku Shikoku, which, if you're not from Japan, if you've not heard of this region, there is a reason for that, and perhaps it's not as well known outside of Japan as some of the other regions or some of the other cities like Tokyo or Kyoto. And what we really want to do is we really want to increase the profile of the researchers and the universities within this region. We want people to know about the great researchers, the really great research institutes that are in this region. And that's something that HIRAKU-Global is really working hard to do. And finally, we want to see the successful career progression of the HGRs or the HIRAKU-Global researchers in the program. And we're really happy to see so far so much growth and development of the researchers that are in the program now, and we're looking forward to seeing their growth, going forward. HIRAKU-Global is actually one program that is a part of a number of different similar programs or sister programs that are overseen by the organization running the webinar today, Researcher Plus. And so there are 4 sister programs in Kyoto University, Nagoya University, Tsukuba University, and Tohoku University. And, we're all working on our projects, independently, but occasionally we do work together for some collaborative events. And so, of course, if you're in one of these regions, these are great programs to also, get in touch with and get some more information from if you're interested in learning more about some of the researcher development activities, especially for early career researchers in specific regions. So let me next go to cover the researcher development strategy of HIRAKU-Global. So this is one question I'd like to ask everyone. So again, we're going to try to make this a little bit interactive. And so what makes a good researcher? there are many different, ways that one can think about this. And so if you have any ideas, why don't you type in the Q&A, just what do you think makes a good researcher? Is it publications? Is it, fame? Is it good leadership? What makes a good researcher to you? And so while you're typing that in the Q&A, think about that and think about that while we go through today's presentation. And at the end, maybe you can see whether your ideas have been reinforced or stayed the same or they've changed. So think of keep this question in mind throughout the entire um, the rest of the webinar. And so let me explain a little bit about how we've approached how research and development through HIRAKU-Global. Again, there's no right or wrong answer, but this is kind of the way that we believe seems to be working. And so HIRAKU-Global is a 5-year program. I introduced earlier, there are a number of HIRAKU-Global researchers in the program, and each of them are in the program for 5 years. And during this 5 years, we provide specific training, development, and support depending on their goals and plan. And so over these 5 years, we've seen a lot of growth through researchers that have gone through the program or who are, on the way to finishing the program. And this 5-year period also includes funding. So, for example, we provide travel funding to promote international collaborative research over the first 3 years, and also some funding to support their research as a research startup grant for their research goals. Many of these researchers are just starting their research careers, and any funding to jumpstart their research, I think, is really helpful. In the first year, after the researchers join the program, they actually work on something called the Individual Development Plan. I'll explain a little bit more in detail later, but basically this document helps them to focus on their goals as a researcher and also, what their areas of need are and also where they want to be in the next 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. And based on this individual development plan, throughout the 5 years of throughout the 5 years of the program, it can change, but also we've been able to develop initiatives to support specific goals or needs of different researchers. And there's also 2 evaluations, a midterm evaluation and a final evaluation. Sorry, the text is incorrect, but so the midterm evaluation comes after the 3rd year of the program, and after the 3rd year, the travel funding is up until the 3rd year. And so the researchers can see, kind of how they've gone, what they've been doing over the last few years, gauge where they're at compared to their initial individual development plan or IDP, and then where they want to go the next, 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And at the end, of course, we also have a final evaluation, and this evaluation really helps researchers to see, how far they've come from the beginning of the program. So these are evaluations that, are just really helpful for the researchers to see exactly where they've come from, where they're going, and where they, whether it's been matching their goals and whether new goals or new needs have come up. And after the program, of course, we no longer specifically provide support or funding, but all researchers who finish the program continue to represent HIRAKU-Global as alumni, and so we want to see them really develop into world-class researchers capable of leading really innovative and significant research on the world stage. And so that's just something that we really want to strive for. The program has been in operation for 6 years, so we really have only just begun to see, where the researchers who've finished the program go, and so we're looking forward to the years ahead to, where their careers will take them. After that, so there's actually we've within HIRAKU-Global, we actually break up the researcher development initiatives into 3 specific categories: empowerment content, basic content, and core content. Let me briefly describe some of these specifically. So let me describe the core content. And these are the contents which are essential to all researchers within the program. I mentioned about the IDP earlier. This is something that not only researchers work on when they begin and through the evaluation, but they can change it and update it at any point to, based on, if they have new interest or new need or their research situation changes. There are also two other aspects of these core contents, which one is called the achievement card, and the other is called Aura, which is Aspiring World-Class Researchers Activity Indicator. And let me go through these a little bit briefly. So the achievement card is used to kind of gauge where researchers have gone over many years, and they can see after many years throughout the program, where they've come from, where they're going, and all of the outputs of their research, as well as where they want to go. And Aura is an indicator that's been produced to really also kind of visualize where all of these research activities have taken place and where they're going to be going. And this is kind of just the arbitrary numbers. And so it measures, research output, international, collaboration and such things. And so these are just tools for researchers to be able to see, how they kind of work, how they've gone through the program so far and where they want to go going forward. Next, I'd like to cover the basic content. And so this consists of a number of initiatives, and specifically, let me focus on these two initiatives because we're kind of talking about international collaboration or international initiatives of HIRAKU-Global. And so again, we provide funding for international research exchange. This can be used, for example, for researchers to go abroad, to visit another lab, or to invite researchers from overseas institutions to invite researchers from overseas institutions to their institution for research exchange. There are also empowerment content. So these are initiatives which really are built to empower researchers to develop their research. And so, for example, these consist of, for example, we have an annual conference, which I'll explain a little bit towards the end. We're going to be having an international symposium in January, and there's also other aspects such as an international trip seminar, which is used to really have researchers, increase their interest or, understanding about how to practically go abroad and conduct, collaborative research. And this seeks to just build the independence and the vision of the researchers within the program. So next, let me describe a little bit about the international initiatives of HIRAKU-Global. And again, let me start off with a specific question. And so, why is international collaboration important? This is a question that actually we seem to get a lot from various researchers. And so, why is international collaboration important? Think about that again while we're going through this section, and you can see later on again whether it's your ideas have changed or not, or been reinforced after this discussion. And so first of all, so one of the aspects which I think is really important and really successful of about HIRAKU-Global is that all events and initiatives are in English. So within Japan, of course, we're in Japan, almost, many of the universities here use Japanese as, an educational and research language. But especially recently in the modern day, research activities, for example, writing articles, presenting at conferences, international collaboration, a lot of it requires English language. And of course, to conduct research activities in English for researchers who are not native or fluent English speakers is very challenging. It's actually something that to me is very impressive, that many of the researchers within HIRAKU-Global, they're not native English speakers, yet they've done a great job in, undergoing, doing research activities in English in, a second, sometimes a third language, sometimes a fourth language. And that's just amazing. And so Hiraku Global specifically, one of the goals or one of the ways that we wanted to support researchers and their, research activities and research, acumen is to conduct all events and initiatives in English. And specifically, this helps to, for researchers to gain more practice, on a daily level, just even, simply speaking to other researchers in English is something that is really helpful as a researcher. Of course, all of our events are in English. The retreat, we have an annual retreat, that's in English. Our annual conference, symposia, international trip seminars, those are all in English. And so researchers within the program have the ability and the opportunity to, for example, practice formal presentations in English, or again, to have these informal discussions with other researchers in English. And that's something very unique that maybe not all universities or not all researchers, especially within Japan, have the, opportunity to do. So I think that's something that's really, interesting and really unique about Hiraku Global. And we hope that this aspect is specifically really helpful for promoting their international collaboration and research activities. So let me give you some examples of some of these initiatives. So one of the initiatives that we have is actually called the Starter Course. And when researchers join Hiraku Global at first, of course, they're new. Every time you're newly joined somewhere, you kind of are unsure exactly what's going on. And so the Starter Course is basically a crash course giving an overview of the program, and specifically it introduces the program's goals, the program's initiatives, and also support. And it also introduces the Hiraku Global researchers to the consortium mentors, which again, I'll be able to discuss a little bit later. And so this starter course is the first time that researchers are able to meet each other, and also Hiraku Global, the leadership and the staff and the mentors. And so, of course, all of these aspects, almost all of these aspects are in English. And so we really think that this is a really great way to start their Hiraku Global research careers. Next is the retreat. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, especially in Japan, this is not very common within research institutions. The retreat is basically an opportunity for participants to go somewhere secluded and kind of shut themselves off from daily contact of their typical daily, for example, work duties, and work together on something very specific, or meet together to do something very specific. And so the Hiraku Global retreat started a number of years ago, and was one of the initiatives spearheaded by the previous program manager, George Tendero. And so the retreat is held every year, and it's actually a way for Hiraku Global researchers to connect with each other in person. It's one of the only ways that Hiraku Global researchers can connect with each other in person. So we, because Hiraku Global is a consortium of different universities in different parts of Japan, most of our, or many of our initiatives or events are online. And so this retreat is a way for researchers to come together once a year and do something together in person. And the retreat actually rotates sites annually between the four partner universities. The first couple of years, 2022 and 2023, it was in Hiroshima. Last year was in Ehime. This year in September was in Tokushima, and next year will be in Yamaguchi. And so you might be wondering, all of these researchers come together, what do they do? The contents actually differ every year. The retreat is actually organized by Hiraku Global researchers for each other. And every year, the contents are totally different. And so, for example, it might include formal presentations, it might include team building exercise or field work or lab tours, or skill building workshops. It definitely always includes opportunities for socialization and discussion. And so, when you have these in-person events of a program which really, isn't able to have so many in-person events, opportunities for researchers to just discuss with each other directly are few and far between. Though that's one of the major important aspects of the retreat. And so let me share some pictures of the retreat. So this is from past retreats that were held in Hiroshima and Ehime. And you can see some of these involve discussions, involve, visiting, I guess, the Japanese sake region of Japan, learning about the microorganisms that make sake, led by one of the HIRAKU-Global researchers who's an expert in, bacteria. The left here, the researchers visited the Hiroshima University observatory. And then on the right, this was from last year in Ehime. So the researchers visited a museum in the university and also a fabrication area that makes high pressure diamond anvil cells to do really high pressure experiments. And then this year we all went to Tokushima University and we had some lectures, some lab tours. We toured a lab called the Post-LED Photonics Institute. And they've been, building really interesting techniques to use LEDs or post-LED technology for example, medical purposes. And it also involved, discussions and also some field work to, understand the local region and specifically for disaster preparedness. The retreat has actually led to a number of papers from, HIRAKU-Global researchers who met each other through the program, possibly at the retreat. And so these are two of the papers a number of papers which have come out as a result of collaboration between HIRAKU-Global researchers. The one on the bottom right just came out a few days ago. So if you're working on or interested in gene therapy or genetic engineering, I really highly recommend you check out this paper. Then two of the other initiatives that we've been working on are the annual conference and the international symposium. And so every year, HIRAKU-Global puts on an online annual conference, and this is an event which allows HIRAKU-Global researchers who are undergoing the midterm evaluation, which is we're in the third year of the program, to give research updates and also, talk about where they want to bring their research forward. And so these are some of the annual conferences over the last few years. And each of them also includes a keynote speaker who, discusses a specific aspect of research or research skills. Last year, the keynote speaker talked about open science. The year before was about science communication. And actually, in 2022, the annual conference and the international symposium were held together. The international symposium is not held every year, and so typically the annual conference is half a day or a day. The international symposium is usually held could be held over multiple days. And in 2022, fiscal year 2022, the annual conference and the international symposium were held together, and this meeting actually had a very long workshop about publishing. And so it also had speakers from abroad, and as well as the HIRAKU-Global researcher speakers. Speaking of the international symposium, so we'll actually be having an international symposium in Hiroshima in January. And so specifically, this symposium will focus on researcher development, and specifically about developing researchers to drive globally impactful research. And so there will be, for example, it'll be on January 19th, and we have a number of speakers, both HIRAKU-Global researcher speakers and also invited speakers from Japan and abroad. And so if you're interested, and we're really happy to have you come to Hiroshima if you're able to, please feel free to register here. You can also check out the HIRAKU-Global website, and that'll take you to the event information and the registration link. After the symposium, there's also a kind of an internal HIRAKU-Global workshop. Again, that'll help to it'll be a venue for the HIRAKU-Global researchers again to kind of discuss with each other, and also with some of the HIRAKU-Global leadership or faculty that they don't actually have a chance to discuss with very much. Another aspect that I'd like to discuss is the International Trip Seminar. I kind of explained this a little bit earlier, but one of the goals of Hiraku Global is to promote and encourage international collaboration. And while Zoom and other online communication tools have made it much easier to work with, collaborators outside of your home institution, whether in, the same country or another country, I think nothing beats direct in-person discussion, especially when you want to, hammer out a project, when you want to really, develop a new idea or a new project. And so, we, as Hiraku Global, as a program, provide funding, travel funding to support travel abroad to potential collaborator labs or collaborator labs for Hiraku Global researchers in their first 3 years of the program. And the International Trip Seminar is another way for researchers to present about their experience going abroad. So, for example, many of the researchers, it's their first, few years as an independent researcher or, starting their research careers. They've not really, maybe they haven't had much opportunity to go abroad for research collaborations, or maybe they don't know exactly where to go or whose lab to visit or what exactly the practical aspects are. And so the International Trip Seminar invites Hiraku Global researchers, often senior researchers who have already gone abroad once or more than one time, to share their, experiences, not just about the collaborative and the research aspects of their, international exchanges, but also, practical aspects. How did they contact the lab to ask to be hosted by them? How did they decide which lab to contact and visit? How did they get a visa? Did they need a visa? How did they secure housing? Some things, many small things, strung together are necessary for, international collaborative trips. And maybe each thing doesn't seem that big by itself, but when you have to do many things together to go on, these international collaborative trips, it is a bit daunting for some researchers. And so, again, this is just one way to provide that information. And one of the other aspects that's really interesting, I think is really well received, is many researchers are really interested in knowing, what are the food options going when we go abroad? If you spend like a month or two in a specific city or a specific country, perhaps you feel you miss your home food, and so what food options are there, and so this is also another aspect that's really important for research, the research environment at the host institution. So this is just a kind of a initiative that really helps to support that. And so we've had two in this year. So the first one was in July by Professor Rina Hatsuike from Yamaguchi University. She described her experience traveling to Australia and also Zambia, which is a country in Africa, for various aspects of her research, which involves, bridge engineering. And we also had another international trip seminar about 2 hours ago by Professor Ryota Sato of Tokushima University. And so he just, explained some of his research about radical chemistry and organic chemistry and his visit to Columbia University in the US to kind of learn some new techniques. And so these are just two of the ones we've had this year, and they happen on a fairly regular basis. Hiraku Global also has an advisory board with international members. Here are the four advisory board members. Three of the advisory board members are from abroad. Jeremy Bradshaw from the UK, Robert Malley from the US, and Alistair McEwen from Australia. And we also have one member from Japan, Yuko Harayama, who also has a lot of experience abroad. And they actually provide, we meet once a year, sometimes online, sometimes in person, and we give them updates about the program, and they give feedback, their suggestions, and specifically all four of these advisory board members, they have a lot of experience with developing researchers in their country and also some in Japan. And so we're always really happy to hear from them and work with them. And so this year's advisory board meeting will be before the symposium, and they'll all actually be speaking at the symposium as well. So please, if you're interested, I really encourage you to come to Hiroshima in January to attend the symposium. And actually, these advisory board members had an opportunity to meet and discuss with Hiraku Global researchers earlier this year in March. And this was actually, we had an exchange event, and this is the first opportunity for the Hiraku Global team as a whole to meet the advisory board members in person. Of course, Hiraku Global started as a program in 2019. And as all of you probably are well aware of, from 2020 for a few years, international travel was banned or a bit slow. And so finally, earlier this year, the advisory board members were able to come and really directly meet the researchers in person. That was a great opportunity. And we hope again that when they come to the symposium, when they speak at the symposium in Hiroshima in January, that they also, are really able to help to, not only support the researchers in the program, but the program at large, but also to just make direct connections with the researchers within the program. One other aspect that Hiraku Global offers is something that started earlier this year. It's called the Support Program for the HGR's Initiative. And what this program, really emphasizes is, Hiraku Global researchers, the startup funding and the international research exchange funding, that kind of is for the first 2 or 3 years. For the last 2 years of the program, we don't actually give funding. However, a number of the researchers in the program, they've been interested in doing activities to build collaborations or invite researchers or just expand their research. And this is an initiative which gives some funding to partially support some type of international initiative by a Hiraku Global researcher. For example, inviting an international collaborator or organizing a workshop, and it's available to Hiraku Global researchers who have undergone that midterm evaluation, and also generally open to other Hiraku Global researchers who have interest in joining. And so the first case of this program's execution was by Professor Naoki Tarutani from Hiroshima University, and he invited Professor, I hope I'm saying this is Gayo Soler Ija from Argentina to visit Hiroshima for a couple weeks for meetings and discussions with him and his lab members, presentation, chalk talk, and here's just some of the pictures from Professor Soler's visit. And so, this is one other opportunity that, although the funding is not that large, we hope that this amount is able to support researchers who really want to do something and have secured partially or most of the funding available necessary, but they're just missing a little bit more to be able to do something like this. And we're looking forward to other initiatives, other cases of the execution of this initiative. And then finally, I would like to focus on highlight some of the collaborative visits of Hiraku Global researchers over the years. So again, Hiraku Global really want to encourage international collaboration. And so for that reason, about 2 million yen is dispersed to each researcher for the first 3 years for international collaboration, going abroad, inviting researchers to their institutions. And we really encourage them to spend several weeks visiting labs outside of Japan for collaborative research or to start a collaboration. And their visits can be coupled with a conference if necessary, but we really want them to just focus on their research when they go abroad. And so this is kind of all of the international trips taken by Hiraku Global researchers over the years. Different years are highlighted in different colors. And this is just this fiscal year from April. So you can see the researchers in the program have gone to many different places around the world, North America, Europe, Asia, even to the dot near Madagascar down there is Mauritius. And so these are all for, many of them are for collaborative research visits. And so let me highlight a few of them and also kind of highlight, what these research visits have resulted in, if there are any, outcomes or outputs from these visits. So This is all most of this, most or all of this information is available online on the HIRAKU Global website. But let me highlight some of these briefly. And so the Eiji Hase, who's a HIRAKU Global researcher from Tokushima University, he actually visited France in 2022. He spent a couple of months there, and this actually, they were doing some collaborative work on optics. He's an expert in optics, and this resulted in a follow-up trip the next year for 3 weeks. And eventually, this also led to a collaborative article published last year. And so it's really great to see kind of research visits lead directly to research outputs. In 2022, I mentioned earlier, so Professor Rina Hasuke from Yamaguchi University spent some time in Australia, and she described this in the International Trip Seminar in July. And this actually also led to her co-publishing a book chapter with some collaborators within this book here about bridge engineering. Professor Mai Inagaki from Tokushima University, she spent some time in Canada in 2022 as a part of the HIRAKU-Global program, and this actually led to not only kind of a longer term visit, she's actually currently in Canada on kind of a longer term research stay as a visiting researcher in a lab in Montreal, but also led to a collaborative research article that was published, I think, earlier this year or last year. You can check that out if you're interested. Professor Sayako Inoue from Ehime University visited a few institutions in France a few years ago. So Professor Inoue is an expert in, she's an expert in geology and earth science. And so this visit actually led to a kind of a bilateral France-Japan early career scientist workshop series. And so it's again great to see kind of this connection being made between researchers through these research visits. Another research visit I like to highlight is by Daisuke Matsumoto, who was originally at Hiroshima University and from last year moved to the Tokyo Metropolitan Institute of Medical Science. And so he actually visited Michigan State University in the US for 3 months for collaborative research. And they're still working together to this day. And they've also done some collaborative work that has led to a presentation at a conference. Next is Professor Yu Sato from Yamaguchi University. And so he's an expert in bacteria in hot springs. And so he actually visited Finland in 2023 for 3 months to work with a biophysicist in Finland. And this actually led to last year, actually earlier this year, that same collaborator, Jarno from Finland, coming to Yamaguchi for a workshop for an international symposium that Professor Sato organized. And it sounds like they're still working together on a number of different things. So I'm really looking forward to where this research goes forward. And then finally, Professor Ryota Sato. So again, I mentioned earlier that he actually just did the International Trip Seminar a couple hours ago. So he actually visited Columbia University last year for about a month. He went there to learn, radical chemistry techniques and really to develop his own idea and his own project. And so again, we're looking forward to where his research will take him. He actually published a paper about total synthesis of a specific bioactive molecule about 3 months ago. So if you're interested in that, again, please take a look. And so finally, I'd like to give some information about some upcoming HIRAKU-Global events. I know that many of you are joining today's webinar. Maybe you're not researchers, you're students, or you're interested in getting involved. And so, of course, you might have, your question is, how do you get involved? How can I get involved with HIRAKU-Global if I'm not in the program or if I'm not specifically in the Chugoku Shikoku region of Japan? And so there are actually many ways depending on, your career level. So first of all, if you want more updates or you want to contact us or, discuss about anything, please feel free to follow us on social media. We just started these accounts a few months ago, and so we're really happy to engage with you to follow us on social media and receive event updates and also updates about when Hiraku Global researcher publishes a paper or has a seminar. So please follow us for more information. I mentioned the International Symposium in January, and so again, if you're interested, please feel free to come. Please register. You can find more information on our website, and we're really happy to announce that Professor Hiroko Tsukamura from Nagoya University has just accepted an invitation to provide a keynote presentation. She's an expert in endocrinology and also formerly a vice president of Nagoya University. And so she has a lot of expertise and experience in researcher development. And so we're really happy to have her as also as a keynote speaker. And so we're really looking forward to, if you're interested, we're really looking forward to seeing you there. I mentioned earlier, we're also going to be having an annual conference in February. And so this year's annual conference will feature research updates from the fourth Hiraku Global Researcher cohort. And it'll also feature a keynote presentation by Professor Masahiko Hara, who is currently director of JSTS London. And he was formerly for a long time, he's a professor at Tokyo Institute of Science, Tokyo Institute of Technology, now named Institute of Science Tokyo. And he'll be talking a little bit about how to build and lead an international research network, which is really really matches our ideas and our theme and our goals. And so especially if you're interested in working with, doing research or collaboration between Japan and the UK, I think this is also something that you can check out. Again, please register. The website is live, so you can find that information on the Hiraku Global website, and it's online by Zoom, and so you can join in from anywhere around the world, depending on your time zone. Again, we will be starting the recruitment of the next Hiraku Global Researcher cohort sometime in the spring. This is we want to see, really talented researchers join the program. And so any early career tenure track faculty from a partner collaborating operating institution is eligible. And they will become the next cohort of Hiraku Global researchers that will join the program and undergo all of these great things that we've discussed already. And of course, if you're interested in joining Hiraku Global as a Hiraku Global researcher, but if your institution is not yet represented within Hiraku Global, contact your institutional leadership and see if they'd be interested in submitting an application to join our consortium. We're really happy to welcome new collaborating institutions. And then finally, there's maybe you'll get some more information later, but there will be a symposium of all of the organizations that I mentioned earlier, Hiraku Global, and then our sister programs from, Kyoto, Nagoya, Tsukuba, and Tohoku universities in Japan. This will be, all of us will be gathered at the Researcher Plus Symposium in March in Tokyo, and we're going to be discussing a little bit about each of our programs. So if you're interested, please feel free to register and come to that. And finally, how can you practically get involved? So, if you're an early career faculty in Chugoku Shikoku, please apply and join Hiraku Global as a Hiraku Global researcher. And again, if your institution isn't listed here, please contact your institutional leadership and see if they'd be interested in joining as an institution, joining Hiraku Global as a collaborating institution. If you're a researcher outside of the Chugoku Shikoku region, I'd encourage you to collaborate with Hiraku Global researchers. So there's a number of researchers that are working on any and all different topics. And so please feel free to contact them and, propose your own collaborations or, propose your own ideas. If you're a postdoc, then I'd encourage you to apply to tenure track faculty positions in Chugoku Shikoku, especially at Hiraku Global partner and collaborating institutions, and also to still collaborate with, keep collaborating with Hiraku Global researchers, propose new collaborations, propose new ideas. If you're a graduate student, I'd encourage you to apply and to join HIRAKU-Global Researcher Labs as postdocs, for example, and again, keep collaborating with, propose your own collaborations with HIRAKU-Global researchers. If you're an undergrad, maybe you're not sure whether you want to continue into graduate school. Maybe you're applying into, master's programs or joint master's PhD programs. If so, please consider, applying to be a student, a graduate student in HIRAKU-Global Researcher Labs, or even just in general universities in this region in Shikoku. And finally, if you're a secondary school student, maybe you're not sure exactly what you want to do with your career, but, maybe you're interested in what a researcher does. So, you can volunteer in a research lab for experience. You can visit a university. Often we have open campus days where different departments or different labs have, some, outreach discussions or seminars. And then, so this type of, open campus we had at Hiroshima here earlier this year. And, pursue your educational interests and passions, stay curious. And finally, for everyone, come join our events, both in person and online. We're really happy to see any and all of you at any of our events. And so with that said, again, let me thank all of the people who are involved with HIRAKU-Global, from MEXT, Researcher Plus, all of the staff and leadership from the partner and collaborating institutions listed here, consortium mentors, and we get a chance to introduce them, but they're a really key part of HIRAKU-Global, the advisory board members, and especially the HIRAKU-Global office team members who are working, together every day to, really make HIRAKU-Global a really great program. And finally, I'd like to thank all the HIRAKU-Global researchers, all the researchers in the program. Without you, this program wouldn't exist. So I'm really grateful for your participation in the program. And with that said, I'm very happy to take your questions. Let me leave these two event posters up so you can feel free to register if you're interested. And I'm happy to take any and all questions. So if you have any questions, please go and type those in through the Q&A, and I will start going through those questions shortly. Thank you so much. Great, thank you. So one of the questions is, who's eligible for applying for HIRAKU-Global? And so tenure track faculty at the partner and collaborating institutions are eligible. And so tenure track faculty generally within 10 years of their PhD and or within, a couple of years after, they started the position. And so as long as you're a tenure track faculty at any of these partner or collaborating institutions, you're eligible to apply to join HIRAKU-Global. And again, if your institution is not in HIRAKU-Global, I'd recommend to try to gauge your institution's leadership interest in, joining HIRAKU-Global, so then you can, avail yourself of the opportunity to apply as to be a HIRAKU-Global researcher. And this is actually related to the next question, which is, can anyone join HIRAKU-Global, or is it limited to Japanese? And it is not limited to Japanese. Any researcher from any tenure track researcher from a partner or collaborating institution can join, regardless of nationality. We have, one researcher originally from China, one researcher originally from Mexico, and so it's not limited just to people with Japanese nationality, but you do have to be at an institution that is a partner or a collaborating institution of HIRAKU-Global. So I'm a university student outside of Japan doing my PhD. I'm interested in the reason why Professor Tony, decided to be a researcher in Japan. What brings you to Japan? And so a little bit about myself. I'm sorry I didn't have so much time to introduce myself very, very much. I'm really excited about introducing HIRAKU-Global instead. So I actually came to Japan in 2017. I joined an institute called the Earth Life Science Institute at Institute of Science Tokyo, where I was for 8.5 years. And I actually did a lot of research there on the topic of astrobiology and origins of life. And the reason I came to Japan was that there was an opportunity there for me to go directly from my PhD into an independent researcher position. So I actually kind of skipped a postdoc position and directly became an independent researcher when I moved to Japan. And since then, I stayed in Japan, and I came to Hiroshima University earlier this year to become program manager of HIRAKU-Global. And I hope to use, my limited experience and limited, I hope to use what I've learned being a researcher in Japan who has actually experience with international collaboration to help to, develop initiatives for HIRAKU-Global researchers to really become, world leaders in research. And so that's why I'm here as HIRAKU-Global program manager today. And so to answer your question shortly, the reason that I came to Japan was because that there was this really great opportunity to immediately start an independent research career outside of immediately after my PhD, which is very rare, but it is possible. So if you're interested in coming to Japan, whoever asked this question, please look into such opportunities or other opportunities as well. I have a chance to study abroad in Japan. And I have a chance to study abroad in Japan is one of the options for me. However, I heard the language barrier in Japan is huge. How did you overcome it? And so this is a very interesting question. So of course, in Japan, the official language is Japanese. In general, education up through the university level is, in Japanese. However, because, researchers, in order to have a good research career, we need to do a lot of activities in English. We have to publish articles in English. We have to give presentations in English at conferences. And so depending on which research lab you'd be interested in studying at, perhaps English is actually used more than you think. Maybe it's not, but maybe it is. Every research lab is very different. And so there's no one short, direct answer to your question. And so it really depends on, the situation of the lab that you're going to be studying abroad at or the institution that you're going to be studying abroad at. But it is possible. Everyone is very helpful and very willing to, communicate. Even, communication is not just through words, it's through action, through, many non-word things. And so it is possible to communicate and learn from each other and, collaborate and do good research. Without, really understanding each other's language completely. The last question is, how do I know whether my institution is part of the HIRAKU-Global program or not? And so right now, let me again find that for you. So HIRAKU-Global consists of 4 institutions. And if your institution is listed here, then your institution is a member of HIRAKU-Global.